Welcome to Fungi Frontiers, the official podcast of the Maine Fungi Fest. I'm your host, Bobby Paluzzi. Let's go! So, I am talking to Louis Giller, correct?
Yeah, that's me.
I've got your name down and everything. Now, what should people know about you? Because I know you're from North Spore. North Spore is a company that helps people grow mushrooms.
Yeah, North Spore is a mushroom company that provides a ton of different products and services and education to people all over the country and the world. And we've been doing it for 11 years now, as of June, I believe, which in this industry is a long, long time. We're based in Portland, Maine. I've worked for North Spore for 8 years now. I just in May hit my anniversary, eighth year anniversary, which is totally bonkers. It's me and besides the owners, like three other people that
Okay,
are worked there that long.
you do a lot of work with the public, though, and helping people grow their own mushrooms, correct?
That's exactly right. We sell lots of grow kits and sterile substrates and grow chambers that can help people grow mushrooms in different environments, different scales, indoor, outdoor, various species. All of that is our forte, our specialty, and we've really honed the craft over the years.
If you were, a somebody just getting into the curiosity of mushrooms at this point, one might say, "Hmm, where do I start? I kind of like the way they look, but I cook with them once in a while." Somebody really on the outside. But now that things have gotten popular, an outside thing like that might come to someone that's completely a novice, but just decides somehow that they want to do it. So how can you tell the difference between somebody who can grow mushrooms or just maybe wants to, and then as they get a little deeper into it, what advice do you give people or
I mean,
methods?
there's people are coming at it from all sorts of different backgrounds, and it's people. Some people hate mushrooms, and they had a soggy portobello mushroom once, and they're just like, nope, not for me.
Mm.
That's gross. Or they were given mushrooms on a salad raw, and, like chalky button mushrooms that were gross raw, and so they just decided they didn't need to be a part of their lives, and so I'll often approach the conversation by kind of reminding them that just like with fruits and veggies and meat, there's many, many different kinds. In fact, with mushrooms, there are more than many. I mean, we're talking about a kingdom with 2 to 4 million species, perhaps a little more than
What?
that.
Why would someone not just buy it? You see what I mean? Like the idea is like, does it become a hobby? Like gardening? Is it a pleasant,
Yeah,
nice thing to do? This kind of thing.
I think that it's both. It's that it is wonderful and cathartic, therapeutic to grow things. And this fits right in with gardening, anything, right? You can just go to the store and buy tomatoes. You don't have to go through all the trouble. You will spend more time and money growing the tomatoes than buying them, but it's worth it for many reasons. It's those sort of mental reasons, but also the quality of what you're going to get, and the control you have over what's being put into it makes it really, really valuable. And then on top of that, there are varieties that are really just not that we sell that are really just not going to be found in the store, and they just don't ship well. Even if you do find them, they're low quality. So those reasons alone make the cultivation of mushrooms of high quality, fresh mushrooms really worth it, if you know how to cook with them.
Cook with them. Very good. Yeah. The use, what people know about tomatoes, like you say, maybe they put them on a salad. What people know about things they grow usually. But I haven't heard of many people, growing up kind of thing. Oh, and come over here and look at my mushroom garden. I think there was one
Yeah.
person in my life that had that. And so I could see it becoming more common, but I think it's what I'm trying to get at is part of like the whole encouragement of mushrooms that's taking place. It seems as though North Spore and over there and you guys are definitely part of this cultural awakening toward a mushroom, let's just say use, just mushroom use in the United States, particularly we're talking about. And up here in the Northeast, I know there's a lot of places that have used wild mushrooms for years in restaurants, and they grow a lot here. So what makes someone think, instead of going out and foraging, I'm going to get it delivered to me and I'm going to make my own? So what happens? What do I get in the mail?
So you get spawn in the mail. Spawn is any material that is colonized by your fungal species.
Hmm.
And the intent with that material is not to grow the mushrooms off of it, it's to spread that material onto a new food source, being, wood chips a lot of the time. And so, one of the big arguments and benefits to growing mushrooms at home goes beyond the food, right? It's that it is helping your garden. And so that's one of the really big selling points that I'm always stressing, and research is supporting more and more every year, is that by planting these alongside your plants, you're benefiting your plants. It's actually a soil builder and a booster for your plants too. And so
Can you
that just,
explain that? Explain
yeah.
that a little, like how that works.
Totally. So one of our most common species, it really is sort of the king of uh, like bed cultivation of that method that I was just alluding to, spreading amongst mulch, is the wine cap mushroom or
Hmm.
King Stropharia,
Hmm.
which is this beautiful, like burgundy colored mushroom, very, very charismatic and easy to identify. And when you spread it in mulch, it's going to attack. They actually are like carnivorous, and they will attack harmful nematodes. They help to hold in moisture and help break down material faster. And the a lot of nutrients are
Hmm.
locked
Moisture.
up in the cell walls of plants and of the wood chips, and that stuff gets released, and then it's bioavailable to your plants.
Do you
So that's just, one example there
do you
of
have
it really directly benefiting your plants.
so you've got oxygenation going on, you got moisture retention and a nutrition balance helped,
Yeah,
all being
absolutely.
helped by adding a mushroom or two. And so if one's already growing, that's a good sign. Is that right?
Well, yes, that's a great point there. A lot of people look at that and they think it's a problem. They
Hmm.
want to they want to end all the mushrooms growing in their garden. They think it's a bad thing. That
Right.
is a really common thing. I've seen that reaction for years. That
Right.
is false. It means you've got a diverse, healthy landscape.
Right.
Doesn't mean you want your kid or your dog or you to eat those necessarily, but it doesn't mean that you have a problem. It means that things are healthy. And even if you stomp on that mushroom, the mycelium, the white stuff that comprises most of the biomass, is in the soil or in the
Hmm.
wood chips or in the
Right.
logs.
Right. Right.
Um, so you're not killing it anyway. But don't
No.
spray fungicides. No fungicides, guys. That is not
See,
good for you. It's not good for anything.
we've got to go right back to the start here. The
Yeah.
mushroom itself, even if it's already in your garden, that's a good sign. you
Yeah.
know and things like this, starting to get used to the idea that I don't know, I think this podcast, I've been talking to a lot of people that are very deep in the mushroom world, and then I always ask them what it's like on the front lines of getting people to just recognize mushroom as a part of their lives in general, for eating, for using in the garden. And when I was approached with this podcast and someone said gardening mushrooms with North Spore, for some reason my head didn't go to, and then they're going to put them in a wonderful, dish and toss them in a wok. I thought right away, oh, decoratively. And I
Yeah.
don't know why I thought that. And so this is
That's okay, man. They are
part of my
beautiful.
questioning. Yeah. Right.
They're gonna add color and
Right.
texture. They're gonna fill in interesting spaces. Think
Right.
of it sort of like an understory for your kale, you know? I mean,
Right.
it's gonna add all of that as well. And you could utilize like a stump. Let's say you have a stump just like in the middle of your yard.
Mm.
You could grow mushrooms on that and make it beautiful and make it break down faster. There's medicinal mushrooms like reishi
Mm,
that are
mhm,
extremely beautiful,
mm,
really a stately sort of alien varnished sort of look to them with
oh yeah.
gradients of red and brown and yellow and white. And that is a mushroom that can look amazing popping out of the ground and is also a really powerful medicinal mushroom. And so not some of these are going to be used more in a tincture or in tea. And of course, I know a lot of folks going to Maine Fungi Fest are interested in actives and psychedelics. And, North Spore, we can't advocate for the use of any of our products that way, but those things can be grown outside. We're totally advocates if it's legal in your space to, we are pro psychedelics. We just can't do it is still federally legal. It's still illegal in Maine. And so, we have to have that separation. But, expand your mind into that space where if you can garden all these other things outside, why
Yes.
not those too?
Wonderful. You took one of my questions right from me and answered it. Thank you. Basically, that was a good answer to it as well. Now, I have a follow-up though. It's interesting when you just say mushrooms or shrooms as a you know, nickname. I sometimes say that, and people go automatically to the most wild thought in their mind.
Right.
And I don't mean like wild, oh, how nice, you know. It's kind of like wild, I can't even understand that, oh no. And I know maybe somebody listening to this podcast is a little past that already, but there is still a sort of prejudice or something against vegetables and fruits and things, and living fungi is one of them that falls under that. And I just like the ease of which you went from edible mushrooms for food to psychedelic mushrooms in the context of the wider realm. Um, but I'm not sure people can do that as easily. And have you run into any of
Yeah.
that as a in your with your customers or anything?
This stigma goes deep. I mean, it's subconscious in a lot of cases. And one
Yeah.
of the places that I start, yet another one of those big myths that I think has affected our society a lot. I have my own theories on this, is just that like because they are their own kingdom, they are packed with nutrients that other things don't offer. They've got incredible macronutrients, fiber and protein, but they've got different forms of fiber. They've got other chemicals that they're making that are really important for our health. It's an entire food group,
Mm,
so it deserves like that foundational respect. And I think that like reminding people of that or informing them of that is really going to get them to go, okay, you know, wait a sec, like I sort of see what you're saying now. I've sort of haven't.
Let's take a moment for our sponsor love here on Fungi Frontiers and the Maine Fungi Fest. We'd like to thank Norumbega Provisions, LLC, North Spore, Healer, Sanctuary, Float Harder, Elevate Mushrooms, the People's Congregation of Shakers and Movers, Apotheosis Fungi, Leaf Filter Gutter Protection, Root Healing, Iboga Retreats, Southwest Shroomery, Veteran Psychedelic Network, MN Nice Botanicals, Creative Oxford Hills, Maine Intimacy, Relationship and Sex Coaching, Renewal by Anderson, Nevvea Dance Circus, Maine only, Riverside Lodge and Sauna, The Sacred Self, Decriminalize Maine, Driftless Saunas, Wild Embodiment, Creative Expressions, Good Medicine Collective, Nord Creative, and we'll see Podmani at the Maine Fungi Fest 2025 as well.
The culinary side is really an entry point, and then if you understand the nature of how they grow and their role in nature, then looking at these active species that have been arbitrarily made illegal, you see the similarities, and it's much more seamless
mm,
because they're not that different. They just happen to have this, evolutionarily, this perhaps defense mechanism that they developed that has
Right.
this incredible effect, this incredible communication with us. It's it's
Okay.
it's a very powerful thing, but it's also um, it's nothing to be scared of because plants and all sorts of things in nature are making interesting chemicals all the time. And so, lion's mane is a great example. You know
Mhm.
lion's mane, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And a lot of our listeners and a lot of folks these days, more than ever, are hearing about lion's mane because it's good for the brain.
Mm.
It's good for kind of nerve function broadly, and those chemicals in there, hericenones, adenosine, um, those things are very novel to that, just in the same way that psilocybin is.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're in a period of recognizing how special it is to have a mushroom in your
Yeah,
garden or on your what was it now? Wooden stump, but there's other things you can grow on as well, right? I saw a few things in there. You said wood chips was a big one. What's the
yeah.
chemical reaction going on there? Why does the fungi go with the wood chips particularly? Like why do you grow them on those?
So think about a mushroom like a external stomach. They're basically secreting enzymes. One is called peroxidase, and they're digesting lignin and cellulose. And we see it in trees, right? When you see trees that are crumbling in sort of a blocky nature, they might have been attacked by a brown rot fungi, and there are white rot that kind of bleach the
Well,
wood with that
attacked.
peroxide. Yeah.
Explain attacked. What do you mean by attacked by a?
Well,
How
they're
does that?
they're they're eating it. Usually
Is
it's
it
dead, right?
it's
They're not
floating?
attacking a living thing.
Where does one? Okay, there's the tree. It fell down, but where does this other thing come from? Where's this spawn come
Yeah.
from?
So totally getting from the beginning, getting at it from the beginning, you have spores floating around,
Okay.
billions of them.
Ah, all right.
And
All right.
they're always in the air, right? And this is important. The difference between spores and spawn or mycelium,
Mm,
just knowing this difference puts, I think, your understanding of the entire fungal kingdom up a notch, and maybe gives you a tool and an understanding that a lot of people don't have. But that spore has to germinate, just like with a seed, and it germinates and it forms hyphae. And these filamentous cells find a mate and they create a mycelium.
mm.
And that is the network. That's the individual, right? That's the individual that we harness at North Spore. That we find ones we like, those individuals, and we propagate them. We graft them essentially, and we're continually working with the same individuals that we refresh and
Wow.
keep in deep freeze
How
at
old are they?
negative. Some of them are like our blue oyster strain is a very famous blue oyster strain, and we call it our PO1, Pleurotus ostreatus 1, and that has been around for since the beginning, 10, 11 years. As far as I'm aware.
Wow.
It's the same one. Yeah.
Mm. That's extraordinary just to think like that.
Yeah.
As
So,
a
I mean, it's that brings up a whole other interesting thing about sort of bioprospecting and kind of finding new strains out in the wild and even in your own garden.
mm,
If you let things get endemic, they're going to sort of breed on their own in a garden, and you may be developing new strains if this is something that you really establish in your
wow.
space, which is
Oh,
pretty cool.
because they're so adaptable and they're going to take on different characteristics by being in even slightly different conditions.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a fascinating thing to explore. I saw one article written about it and it called it a what did it say? It's something like a rabbit hole. It said, oh yeah, makes every you guys at Northport make every product for every level of the rabbit hole. And I
Well put.
thought, rabbit hole, I guess that's kind of nice, but I don't want it to be as elusive as all that. But it is a sort of it's definitely a path that you can take, and I'm glad there's these bigger bodies of knowledge out there and companies, particularly like yours, that are working for the development of a furtherance of everyday mushroom mycology life. People should understand fungi for such good that it can give. Do you have anything to say about? I'm going to take you out of the commercial for 1 second. Do you have anything to say about a consciousness of the plant itself, or plants, or I mean, you said something earlier about communicating to us. So with 1 second left, tell us what you mean. Is the mushroom communicating to us?
I think absolutely. I think it
Okay.
doesn't take like a full-blown hero dose of psilocybin to communicate.
Hmm.
You know, we can communicate with all different organisms on the planet. I think anything that you're working with and are in relationship with, you can have like pretty deep communication with. And I think like my work with blue oyster in particular, but also chestnut and lion's mane, I've eaten so much of it. I've grown so much of it. I've
Right.
observed it. I've taken time out of my life with it. I mean, it's hard to define and use, even using the word communication as we know it is a little
Right.
bit boxed in
Right.
by that. But I know that like my mom and the way she works with plants is very similar. She's a huge gardener and has for many years, and birds, she works with birds, and the way that she feels that she communes with them is, I think, the same. And I think that it gives you just a respect for nature and a window into life.
When you yourself are personally working with the thing, you can allow yourself to, hear from the nature of what it is you're fascinated with, and there must also be some reason for the fascination that we both can't really explain. Um, and deeper and bigger, does the mushroom itself speak to a larger part of us? Is it starting to get bigger for some reason that we are living through?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Why over the past maybe
Yeah,
decade have mushrooms really become part of the consciousness,
why
especially
now?
in the West?
Yeah,
Like right now, like it's happening, and I think there are certain scientific discoveries, the understanding of the mycorrhizal network that we never really could have understood. I think people understood it um, sort of just intuitively on
mm,
some level, but the way that some really incredible science has shown this communication of plants and fungi in forests has really just inspired our imagination. Uh, our ability to cultivate these things, the need to
right.
feed a planet of 9 billion people, I think it's come out of
Yeah,
scientific discovery and need, and also a meeting of East and West in a
yeah,
big way, and how it has just continued to mesh together, and the science that comes out of that, of like this ancient understanding combined with double-blind studies and whatever, I think creates this sort of best new way of approaching the use of mushrooms.
as you've explained it, it almost sounds in a logical way like a form of evolution, like some sort of a mental maturity that the West has gone through based on its own methods of trying to figure out the best way. And it's now sort of opening the door to this, okay, all right, now there's always been this, but we've never had a chance to, because it's overwhelming to a certain extent. You want to study it first, I guess. So that's what the West has done and given all the little names to all the little, and taking a lot of the intuitive out of it, but now actually asking for some of that back.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted you guys on, was because I think a small part of what a person can do is just get a kit if they want and see what they can do with it and have some fun. They don't have to eat it. They could just grow it. They could say, "Oh, look what I did." And I made this mushroom over here. Look at this. Just like you would show someone a flower or whatever, but now you're maybe a little deeper and you know a little more about it. And it takes people further if they want to. And that, my friend, is what I say is how the mushroom's speaking to us.
Yeah,
It's giving us this
absolutely.
chance to almost act like it acts and take on its sort of, tendril kind of behavior into subject matter, into consciousness, and into furtherance, and into this maturity that's leading to this wonderful evolution evolution that I think we're experiencing. And there's so many contradictory things out in the world, but I guess a mushroom, a plant, a guide, like you guys, can bring people to a bit of peace, maybe,
I
within
hope
all
so.
this.
I
Yeah.
hope that you can, watch the mushroom and experience its time scale and the way it moves and take, inspiration and powerful metaphors from that and forget about um, your troubles and everyday drudgery and maybe um, learn something useful from that. And I think that uh, the beauty of it and the healthful benefits of it, um, compound that effect.
Let's put it this way. If you grew a nice batch of mushrooms, say you grew the first one, you're like, oh, that was okay. Those, they're kind of small, or maybe they don't look the color they look in the book. Then maybe the next batch you do, and you do it real good. And you got this great batch, and you're like, you want to start showing your friends, right? And say, hey, look, I grew this. Try this. It's so good. I just had it on a hamburger yesterday. And I think, it's that's the way it's going to get in there. And then the more you hear it out in public and all the world. So, so happy to have you come to the fest. I'm going to meet you there, and maybe we'll come in and do another interview. I'm going to have my own booth for all that. But you've been very good spokesman for your company. Why don't you give us a nice tag on the way out? Tell us who you are, where you are, what you are, and how happy you are because you are all those things previous.
Sure. I'm Louis Giller. I work for North Spore Mushroom Company in Portland, Maine, and I am our lead of events and education on our marketing team. And we will be at Maine Fungi Fest at the end of the month here, and we are uh, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Tons of interesting educational YouTube content, and a ton going on our website too. So thank you so much. This was a blast.
Yahoo! All right, and this will be on YouTube as well. So thank you, Lewis. I've had a bit of fun talking to you and a bit of education, and we got a little deep, and it was good for us both. So I'll end. Bong, fest, 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 fest.
Fungi Frontiers is brought to you by Movin' On Productions, produced by Bobby Paluzzi. And we remind you to stay connected while you further your fungi frontiers.